Hi guys, this is Howdy. I welcome you to another video tutorial on creating a featured image slider using ASP.NET Core and Angular 8. In the last video tutorial, we added a view to the admin panel where the user can go and add a featured slider. But as of now, there is no functionality added, so even if we try to upload images, we'll not see any preview being generated, nor when we click submit, the gallery is created. So this functionality needs to be coded so that when the user uploads or selects the images, they can see a preview. And when they submit the gallery, it needs to be added to the database and they get a confirmation. So without wasting much time, let's go ahead and start coding this functionality. To code this functionality, we will make use of jQuery. jQuery is a JavaScript library which is completely open source. So we are going to make use of jQuery, and to use jQuery, we are going to write some custom scripts. Custom JavaScript or jQuery code will be written and be added into this view. So inside this scripts tag here, scripts section, we will reference the scripts. So let's go ahead and add a script tag that is going to reference gallery.js. This is a this will this file will hold all the custom jQuery code that we are going to write. So it's going to be stored inside library, that's lib folder. Then we have a custom folder. Inside the custom folder, we are going to create a folder called a new folder. So let's create a new folder, call this as JS. And then inside JS, we are going to add a new file, call this as gallery.js. Now here we are going to write some custom code that we are going to use to preview the images when they are selected. So the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and search the upload image button. So upload images button, and here you will notice that I have added a on change event. On change, I'm calling a method called as preview files. So whenever the file uploader or the window loads where you have to select the files, every time a file is selected, the on change event is going to be fired off. And when it's fired off, we are going to write some custom code which will create preview of each image that is selected. So here let's write this code. So here is the method that we are going to write to preview files. So the first thing that we want to do is get all the selected files and store them in a variable. So I have created a variable called as files which will store all the files. So to get all the files that are being uploaded using the input type of files, so if we go back and we search for upload images, you will notice that the input type of this input tag is file. And by making this input type file, we can upload files. So, so by using the query selector method, we will get all the files and store it in this files variable. Next thing. So this is a nested function which will be used to read the selected files. So we will going to create a function within the function preview files, and it's a nested function called as read and preview. So we are going to read and preview each file that is being selected by the user. So first thing that we want to check is the user is not uploading some files whose format is not accepted. For example, we are uploading only JPEG, GIF, PNG, and JPG. But if the user tries to upload a PDF, because a query selector type is file, input type is file, the user can upload any type of file. So we have to make sure that the file is not something that we are going to accept. So if it's anything other than these formats over here, then we are not going to accept it. Therefore, we are setting an if condition over here and using some regular expression to test if the file uploaded meets our criteria. And by doing that, what we're doing is just passing the name of each file. So the name of the file obviously contains the extension of the file type. Now we are going to make use of some inbuilt classes in HTML5 browsers. So if you are not familiar with HTML5 browsers, then they have some inbuilt classes. One of them is file readers that helps us to read files that are uploaded on the browser. So to get more information on what kinds of classes that are available in HTML5 browsers that you can use in your application, you can go to this very popular website called as MDN Web Docs, and here you will find bunch of classes that you can use that are inbuilt for you in your browser, HTML5 browsers, that you can use when you're developing your application. So we are going to make use of file reader, which returns a newly constructed file reader. So every time a new file reader will be constructed, and that file reader will be used to read the file that is uploaded. So if you want more information, please go through this documentation, as we'll not spend time explaining this. So first what we want to do is create a new instance of file reader. Then we will listen to the load event that is being triggered. So every time the user is going to select the file, the load event is going to be triggered. So what we want to do is create a new object using the image class and set the properties. So once again, image class is also available under HTML5 browser. So we will make a object of image class since the image is being uploaded, and we will then, since we want to create a preview, so if a user is uploading a 4K image whose dimensions will be 4096 by, so whose height and width will be maybe 4000 uh, 4000 multiplied by 3096. So in that case, the width and height will obviously take the whole desktop screen size. So what we want to make sure that when we are previewing the images, the size of the image preview is small. So therefore what we want to do is we'll create an image, new image object of, and provide the height and width is the parameters, which is 200 by 200. Then for the image title, we'll get it from the file that is being uploaded, file.name. The border, we will give it our image a border of 2, and we will provide the source, which is the result itself. Now what we want to do is, after we have created the image object, we want to add it to a table. So we want to create a preview. To understand this process better, let's look at the finished project. So here is the finished project, which already has the functionality implemented. So as soon as the upload image button is clicked, the preview files method is fired off. As soon as you select the images, the read and preview method will be called, and each file will be read. So as soon as each file is read, the image class, an image object is created of the image class with the dimensions 200 by 200, the size of the image. And then we add that image to a table row. Now this table row, we have already created a table inside here in our preview. So you see there's an image upload table, but this table doesn't have any body, it's just table tag. We are going to add this table or dynamically generate this table using this method called as add image row, which we will code further. So all we have to do is pass the image to the add image row as parameter, and when the table row is created, the image will be added. Next thing what we want to do, the number of rows, we are going to count the number of rows. So we have a method for that called as count table row. So we want to count the number of rows and then display it here on this button that I've created. So that means that many number of images are being uploaded. The number of rows is equal to the number of images that have been selected. Soon as we delete one image, the number also gets updated. So, and then what we want to do, finally append the files. So we are going to create an array called as form objects, and we are going to push each file into that array, form objects array. After we have pushed the files into the form objects array, the next thing that we want to do is call the reader. So we have created a file reader object, and its name is reader. Now file reader comes with various methods. So one of them is read data as URL. So if you want to read a file, all you want to do is pass the file object. So then we will read the file. I have added some additional notes for you guys to read while each step is being executed so that you don't find it difficult to understand this method. Now the next thing that we do is we have already created this method. This is a nested method inside preview files. So we need to call this method. So what we are going to do now, we will check if the files are selected and at least one file is selected. So if more than one file or one file is selected, then we will check that by checking our files object. If our file object has more than one file or one file, then we will call the file, will run a for each loop and pass the files, and each file will be passed to the read and preview method. And this read and preview method, as you know, will execute this following code where each file will be read and then it will be added to the table row. If there is no files, then this code block will not get executed, which means this method will not be called. And finally, what we want to do is we want to set the value of the file selector to null. That's because if you try to select the same file without your browser refresh, you cannot do it. What do I mean by this? So let's demonstrate to you. So I deleted this file which has a tiger image on it. Now let's go to upload image again. And I try to select the tiger image. I'm able to select it. That's because my code in this finished project has the option which is to set the value of the selector to null. If I had not added this code, then what happens is when I try to select the same image after I delete it without setting the value to null, I would not be able to select the same file again because the value of this file is stored in the browser's memory. Unless you refresh your browser, you cannot select the same file. So make sure that this last statement is always added when you are using file uploaders. Now this method is complete. Few things that we want to do is first write code this method which is add image row. Second, this method which is count table row, and finally a array that we need which we are pushing this file. So let's go ahead and first create this add image row method. So here I have added the function add image row, which requires us whenever any object of method is calling this function, they have to pass an image object as the parameter, which we are doing over here. When we are calling the add image row, we are passing a single image inside that method. First, we are going to check if the table body tag exists. So what we mean by that is, as you see here, there is no table body. There's only a table, which is obviously you cannot see it because we don't have the rows, table rows yet created yet. Once we add the image, the table row gets added. So what we want to do when we upload an image, we always want to check that there is a table body. If there is a table body, then we will append the row. If there is no table body, so in this case, there is already a table body. So when we upload the second image, all we want to do is we don't want to create another table body tag. We just want to create a table row tag and add this image. So that's why what we're going to do here is we are going to check if there is already a table body tag existing over here inside this table. If it is existing, then make sure you create the row inside that table body. And if it is not existing, then you create the table body and then add the row. So that's why to check if the table body exists, we will check the length of our table. And if it is 0, then we will add the table body. If it is not 0, which means the table body already exists, then we will add the image. Now to add the image, we have another method. So I'm not going to write the same method here. That's because it will be a very lengthy method. So what I'm doing here is to append the table row into the table body. I have written another method which is called as build image table row. And I'm passing this image to this method here. So let's go ahead and write this method in our gallery.js. So here is the method guys, which is build image table row, which we are passing when we are appending the row to the body. So all this method does, it creates a row and returns a new row every time this method is called. Now here is some HTML code that I have written, and all I'm doing is concatenating strings. So if you look at a regular table code, HTML table code, that's what this is. All I'm doing is I put them on separate lines and I'm concatenating it. And after I have created a column which consists of uh, a row which consists of 6 columns. You 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. And first column is the image, then the title, the caption, the alt text, description, the edit and delete button. So all we are doing here is we are creating that column and we are putting that code here as a string. We are concatenating each value as a string. So this is one way to do it, using some JavaScript concatenating the values and creating your table row, because every time we have to create a new row with 6 columns, we will call this method. It will create a row with 6 columns and it's just going to keep on appending each row. So you can either use jQuery, complete jQuery to run a for each loop and then create rows. But I don't recommend that because I'm anyways going to teach you in the upcoming videos how to do that as well, because when we are editing the gallery, at that point I'm going to show you how you can do it using jQuery. This is regular JavaScript where we are just concatenating the values and returning a new row. So now this is done, it's going to return a new row and then the new row will be created. But a method we cannot yet test because we have few more objects to create. One is this count table row. So let's go ahead and create this method. So here I'm going to add a method that is going to be used to count table rows and count the number of files in the table. And I already showed you the demo. So all I'm going to do is call the HTML of the ID image count. So if you can search this in your, so it's a span tag which is located inside a div. And here all I'm doing here is I'm going to add the value, append the value inside this span tag. And the value is nothing but the count of the rows. So that's all I'm going to do. So the length of my table rows is basically the count of my table rows. And all I'm going to do is display it on that button. Finally, the form objects, we need to push each file inside an array so that we can then show it to our user who's uploading it, because where are we going to push all file after we have read it? We need to store it in some type of collection object. So we are going to use an array called as form objects to create that. So the property we will create here just before our preview method. So here I'm going to create the form objects array, which is an empty array, which will contain all the objects received from the submission form. So when I say all the objects, we are not just going to receive images. We are going to receive images. We are going to receive the image title, the caption, the alt text, the description. So these are all going to be arrays which will contain all this information: array of titles, array of images, array of caption, array of alt text. So all we are going to do, the first array that we are going to push inside this form objects array will be an array of full of images. So image files, information. So that's what we have to do, in initialize or instantiate it an empty array to store all the image file objects. Now we have done with this. Now the next thing is to go ahead and test if this method works and we are able to create a preview. Obviously, to test, I'm going to run this application by clicking start debugging. The build was succeeded. Now the application should load, and once it is loaded, we should be able to see the uh, file uploader and file preview. So let's go to the admin featured slider. Then let's go ahead and select some images. Previously, I wasn't able to do that. I was able to do it in the finished project, but now let's check here. And as you see, I am able to see a preview of images and dynamically we are creating a row for each preview where the user can add the titles, the caption, the alt text, and the description. So that should be it for this video tutorial, guys. In the next video tutorial, what we want to do is work on some other functionalities like clear preview, and when the user hits the delete button, we should see the row getting deleted. We should also see the number of images being updated. When we hit clear preview, all these previews should be cleared as well. So we are going to do this in the next video tutorial. If you have any questions, use the comment section and I'll be happy to answer your questions. I'm going to push this code in the DevOps repo so that you will have access to it. Also, I apologize for not pushing the previous code. I thought I did it, but I was told by one of the users that I did not push it. So please, I am going to push it now into the DevOps repo and the link will be provided in the video description. Please like and subscribe my channel Tech Howdy. Thank you.